So it is day 10 of the Ukrainian invasion of Russia in the Kursk region. And that's going to be the primary story today. So let's try to knock the other things out and then we'll get to what's going on in Kursk. 1,220 Russians off the battlefield, 8 tanks, 24 armored fighting vehicles, 47 artillery systems, 85 vehicles and fuel tanks. This number is on the higher side, and it's been consistently high for the last, I don't know, 3 months or so. And there's a reason why. Now, Andrew Perpetua didn't put his list out yet by the time that I had started working on this, but he said, I think people seriously underestimate how many casualties there are in this war and how many die every day. Like, think about this. If Even if Ukrainians were at a casualty rate of 3 to 1, that's still a good 300 to 400 some odd that are there every day, and it's a painful thing to watch. Okay, 0 out of 3 cruise missiles shot down, 29 out of 29 Shahed drones shot down last night. So the Russians keep doing this every night, and it's good when you see, I mean, it's weird to say it's good, but it I find it more comforting to see 30 of these going over Ukraine and getting shot down than seeing 6 or 5 or something like that. Because when they do that, when they restrict it, they're building for another day where they're going to send 100 or something like that. Again, Andrew Perpetua, Russia has performed multiple drone strikes on civilians today. This was yesterday at 11 a.m. Now, this was after I had done the daily brief, and so that's why I'm talking about it now. So this was yesterday, multiple drone strikes on civilians today. Among the attacks, they attacked a water distribution point in Kherson and a humanitarian aid worker in Kupiansk. Real keeping it classy, Russia. Okay, Ukraine reports heavy fighting on the Eastern Front after Russia's incursion. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about what's happening in Kursk, but there's still fighting going on the Eastern Front line, right? Ukraine said that there was no sign of Russian military pressure receding along the Eastern Front inside its borders on Thursday, more than a week after the incursion into Russia, and reported heaviest fighting in weeks near Pokrovsk. They really want Pokrovsk. The enemy, despite what's happening on the territory of Russia, is still keeping the bulk of its troops in this direction and trying to achieve success. Now, the hope was that they'd have to pull those reserves off and it would ease the fighting, and it may do that eventually, but we haven't seen it yet. Russian forces have used all available reserves in the eastern Donetsk region and had truly pressured Ukraine there. The Ukrainian military general staff said there had been 58 battles between Kyiv and Moscow forces on the front near the Kyiv-controlled logistics city of Pokrovsk, the most it had reported in any single day, 58 in a day. Like, that's okay. So what are we talking about? So we're talking about Pokrovsk, this city here. Okay, I'm not going to replace this ruler, but let me just show you this. This city here, okay, it controls a hub, and if they lose this, they really have to back up their defensive lines further back into Ukraine, and they don't want to do this. Now, this is where they are currently today, and this is where they were 1 month ago. And I show you this to show you the lines, the movement. The Russians are incrementally gaining ground in this region, right? Okay, so there's from the very tip of the front line here, they've moved 6 kilometers, and from here they've moved 18 kilometers over just 1 month. So the Russians are gaining ground. Let's not deceive ourselves. Okay. Yesterday was the largest drone attack in the entire war, according to official sources. And it appears that they did hit some things on this air base. We're not exactly sure what it is yet, but it looks like, Anton Yaroshenko was saying some specific fuel that was very valuable, and they look like they hit some buildings, and we're not exactly sure what else. Okay. Earlier today, multiple mill bloggers shared onboard footage of a Russian Ka-52 attack helicopter destroying a Ukrainian convoy in Kursk with guided missile fire. Only one catch, the convoy was Russian. Oops. Things like that do happen, but they seem to happen to Russia quite a bit more than you would think. ISW, Ukrainian forces advance in Kursk Oblast slows. Russians dig trenches. New satellite imagery shows Russian forces constructing defensive fortifications in Kursk Oblast. Okay, and the defensive lines are actually like 45 kilometers or something crazy like that from the border of Ukraine. And I just thought, wow, they're just planning to cede all that ground. That's interesting. Now, the Ukrainians have been, this is the land that they have seized so far, and they go down to the right, they can go down into Belgorod, or they can go into the left here. Now, this particular city or town or village or whatever has been evacuated. The Russian regime authorities have issued urgent evacuation orders to all remaining civilians in Glushkovsky district, this area in green. But then it occurred to me, and I saw somebody else talk about this, how, the, and I'm no military strategist, right? I don't know what's here. It doesn't seem like there's a lot here, but part of why they've been successful here is because there's not like major cities. Same kind of deal here, and there's a Ukrainian border here and Ukrainian border here, and then Russian border. So much of this, they could have three borders that they don't have to worry about if they sweep into here and take more real estate. Just saying, I don't know if that's useful. You can tell me if you have a military strategist kind of background in the comments below. Seized by Ukrainian armed forces during the capture of 102 Russian soldiers in Kursk region. This extensive subterranean Russian military base will surely come in handy. So this was the base in Kursk that Russian conscripts occupied. Nice digs compared to some other places that they could have had, right? And 102 surrendered. More than 2,000 Russian soldiers so far have surrendered in Kursk. Like it's creating logistical problems because so many Russians have surrendered so far, so many POWs. Their own lives were much more valuable to them, and they made the right decision. They surrendered as POWs. This is a huge number the Kremlin will have to reckon with. Hopefully, they'll get some of their Azov guys back. The Kremlin really wants the FSB officers who surrendered to Ukraine from Kursk, and so this is the first time that they initiated the negotiations to exchange prisoners. Okay, so Ukraine and Russia have begun the talks on exchanging POWs. It's to the point where even India is like putting out an advisory now, advising Indian nationals in Bryansk, Belgorod, and Kursk Oblast to relocate. Like that's pretty significant, right? Commander of the Akhmat unit tells Russian propagandists, of course, our citizens of the Russian Federation in no way expected to be attacked and killed in such treacherous ways in the 21st century. They thought all this was in the past. What? Like, you in no way thought that you would be attacked? But you're in a state of war. It doesn't just flow one way. Russian court has sentenced, finally, and she was on trial, sentenced a U.S. Russian citizen, she's got dual citizenship, to 12 years in a colony in a case of state treason. Well, what did she do? She gave these slight donations, like 20 bucks here, another 20 bucks there, and a little bit more there. Donations of $52. It actually was like $51 and I think 82 cents to a Ukrainian foundation early in the war. And she's been sentenced to 12 years for that. Think about what message that is trying to send to the population. Russia withdraws part of its troops from Ukraine to protect the Kursk region from AFU offensive. According to journalists, on August 13, Ukraine also sent reinforcements to strengthen its positions in there. Now, I saw this and I was thinking, like, what about Kaliningrad? What's that little carve out between Lithuania and Poland? That is Russia. Lithuanian defense minister, this was 2 days ago, tells Ukraine that the Ukrainian president that Russia is moving troops from Kaliningrad to Kursk. Well, I mean, that's something that's certainly undefended. That'd be interesting to take that real estate. Kursk's operation is seen as a rehearsal for Crimea's liberation, says a Crimean Tatar leader. Well, okay, so if he's a Crimean Tatar leader, he's certainly a little biased, but that could very well be that the Kursk operation is a strategic preparation for the liberation of Crimea. Now, this is carried in Euromaidan Press. It's not just somebody's blog somewhere. He noted that the Kursk operation allows Ukrainian forces to gain combat experience and test both military and political strategies. And That could very well be what's going on. A fire has broken out in an agricultural engineering plant in Moscow region. It's already spread to an area of 2,000 square meters and has not been extinguished. Same fire again, but Jason J. Smart says this, uh, having seen a lot of cities, do you remember any that had massive fire every single day, 7 days a week? This one, a factory, is already 2,000 square kilometers. It would seem that corruption in construction and sanctions are paying off. And maybe it's just a fire. Maybe it's just a careless cigarette. Could be something else. It could be some kind of attack of some sort. We just don't know. Meanwhile, Shaman, a Russian propaganda singer who sings "I'm Russian," he came to the occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and held a concert there. It's weird. He's singing a concert of "I'm Russian" against the backdrop of Russian flags at a nuclear power plant. Like, okay, an occupied nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Okay. You've heard of Schrödinger's cat. It's a thought experiment. A hypothetical cat is considered simultaneously both alive and dead because we just don't know, while it's unobserved in a closed box as a result of its fate being linked to a random subatomic event that may occur or may not occur. It's just a thought experiment. The experiment viewed in this way describes a paradox. A thought experiment was devised by physicist Edwin Schrödinger in a discussion with Albert Einstein. So you've heard of Schrödinger's cat. So here is Schrödinger's invasion. Ukraine are doing Schrödinger's invasion. They're retreating back to Ukraine while the Russian army chases them to Moscow. I remain master strategist. Darth Putin, parody channel. And then finally, crime crossing Ukraine's border and punishment. Ukraine crossing back into Russia's border. By the way, on Saturday morning, if you're a patron or a channel member, we're going to be doing a live stream, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so be looking forward to that. And you'll see that if it'll be posted if you're a member or if you're a patron on Patreon. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.